The sound of rolling suitcases echoed through our family's foyer as my parents prepared for their 25th anniversary trip to Bali. Designer luggage lined the marble entryway, Louis Vuitton, Hermès, and Tumi bags that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. My mother Margaret supervised the loading process with military precision, checking and rechecking her extensive packing lists while my father Robert reviewed their travel itinerary for the 100th time. I sat on the bottom step of our grand staircase, watching the familiar theater of Hamilton family perfection unfold. My older sister Caroline stood near the front door in her perfectly pressed business suit, having driven over from her law firm to see them off. My brother Jonathan, impeccable as always in his surgeon's scrubs, had stopped by between operations to wish them well on their dream vacation. The dream vacation I wouldn't be joining. "Caroline, did you remember to cancel our dinner reservations for next Thursday?" Mom asked, consulting her leather-bound planner. "I want to make sure the restaurant doesn't hold our table while we're in paradise." "Already handled," Caroline replied efficiently. "I also contacted your hairdresser, your personal trainer, and the country club to let them know you'll be away for 2 weeks." "Perfect. And Jonathan, you'll check on the house twice a week while we're gone." "Of course, Mom. Though with the security system, I'm sure everything will be fine." They moved through their pre-departure checklist with the smooth coordination of people who had mastered the art of luxury travel. Private car service to the airport, first-class flights to Jakarta, VIP transfer to the resort. Every detail planned, every comfort anticipated. "What about me?" I asked quietly from my perch on the stairs. The question stopped the choreographed efficiency cold. 3 faces turned toward me with expressions ranging from surprise to mild irritation. "What about you, Diana?" Mom's tone suggested this was an odd question. "Should I do anything while you're gone? Water plants, collect mail, anything like that?" Mom exchanged a look with Caroline and Jonathan. The kind of silent communication that passed between people who shared the same understanding about family dynamics. "Diana," Mom said with the patience usually reserved for small children, "we've discussed this. This is a special trip for your father and me. An anniversary celebration. Adult time. Adult time. As if I weren't 29 years old." "I know it's your anniversary," I said. "I just thought maybe I could help with the house while you're away." "The house will be fine," Dad interjected, checking his Rolex. "Caroline and Jonathan will handle everything. You just focus on whatever it is you do during the day. Whatever it is you do during the day." After 6 years of building Paradise Holdings into a $2.8 billion hospitality empire, my family still had no idea what I actually did for a living. "Actually," I said, "I was wondering if maybe there was room for one more person on the trip. I could pay my own way, get my own room." "Diana." Mom's voice cut through my suggestion like a knife through silk. "We've been planning this anniversary trip for months. Every detail has been arranged. The resort reservations, the spa appointments, the romantic dinners. This is not the time for last-minute additions." "But I wouldn't interfere with your romantic time," I pressed. "Bali is a big place. I could explore on my own, maybe do some work." "Work?" Caroline's laugh had a sharp edge. "Diana, you don't work. You play around with your computer in that apartment and call it consulting. Real work requires real commitment." The familiar sting of dismissal washed over me. 6 years of 20-hour days building something extraordinary, and my family still thought I was playing games on my laptop. "Besides," Jonathan added with surgical precision, "Mom and Dad deserve to enjoy their anniversary without worrying about family drama." Family drama. Code for Diana's presence would somehow diminish the experience. "The anniversary trip is for real family only," Mom announced with finality, checking her diamond watch. "People who've built real careers, made real contributions, earned real respect. People who understand what it means to achieve something meaningful." The words hit like individual bullets. "You should stay home," Mom continued, "and think about your life choices. 29 years old, Diana. It's time to stop playing at being an entrepreneur and start building an actual future." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Real family only. As if I weren't sitting right there, as if I hadn't been born into this family, as if my existence was somehow conditional on meeting their definition of success. "I understand," I said quietly. "Good." Mom's relief was palpable. "Now, Caroline, did you confirm our spa appointments at the resort?" "All confirmed," Caroline said, consulting her phone. The HermÃ luxury resort has you scheduled for couples massage, private dining and exclusive beach access. They're treating you like VIP guests. The HermÃ luxury resort. I kept my expression neutral despite the irony of the moment. Excellent. Robert, are you ready? The car service will be here any moment. Dad nodded, straightening his tie. Looking forward to 2 weeks of paradise. No business calls, no family stress, just relaxation and romance. No family stress. Meaning no me. The black sedan pulled into our circular driveway exactly on schedule, driven by a uniformed chauffeur who began loading their expensive luggage with practiced efficiency. Diana, Mom said, turning to me one final time, I want you to think seriously while we're gone. About your future, about your choices, about what kind of person you want to be. I will, I promised. Maybe it's time to consider something more traditional, Dad suggested, adjusting his cashmere coat. Caroline could probably get you an interview at her firm for a paralegal position. Jonathan knows people in hospital administration. Real jobs with real benefits, real security. Real jobs. After building a hospitality empire that employed over 15,000 people across 12 countries. I'll think about it, I said. They hugged Caroline and Jonathan goodbye, warm, lingering embraces full of pride and affection. They gave me a perfunctory pat on the shoulder and a reminder to be responsible while they were away. I stood at the front door and waved as their sedan disappeared down our tree-lined street, carrying them toward their first-class flight to paradise. The paradise I wouldn't be sharing with them because I wasn't real family. Once their car was out of sight, Caroline and Jonathan prepared to leave as well. Diana, Caroline said, her voice taking on the older sister tone she'd perfected over the years. Seriously, think about what Mom said. You can't drift through life forever. She's right, Jonathan agreed. At some point you need to accept reality and build something substantial. They left in their respective luxury cars. Caroline to her corner office at the city's premier law firm, Jonathan to his prestigious surgical practice. Both of them convinced they were giving me valuable advice about facing reality. I walked back into the empty house and climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom, where I kept a secure laptop for situations exactly like this. I opened it and logged into the Paradise Holdings management system, scrolling through the real-time data from our properties around the world. The HermÃ luxury resort appeared on my screen in all its digital glory. Occupancy rates, revenue projections, guest satisfaction scores, staff scheduling. All the metrics that proved Paradise Holdings' flagship property was performing exactly as expected. My parents had no idea they were flying to a resort I'd purchased 3 years ago for $847 million. I pulled up their reservation details. Presidential suite, ocean view, all amenities included. VIP treatment, private beach access, dedicated concierge service. The works. I checked the time. Their flight would depart in 4 hours, arrive in Jakarta tomorrow evening, then transfer to Bali for a 10 p.m. arrival at the resort. 12 hours before they discovered who really owned their anniversary paradise. I picked up my secure phone and dialed the resort manager. Ms. Hamilton, Kadek's voice came through clearly despite the 12-hour time difference. Good evening. I trust you're well. Very well, thank you, Kadek. I'm calling about the Hamilton party arriving tomorrow evening. Ah yes, the presidential suite guests. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Hamilton. We have everything prepared for their stay. VIP treatment as requested. Actually, there's been a change of plans. A change, Ms. Hamilton? I took a breath, thinking about Mom's words. Real family only. Stay home and think about your life choices. The Hamilton party is no longer VIP status, I said carefully. Please treat them as standard guests. Regular check-in process, standard rooms, normal service levels. I'm not sure I understand, Ms. Hamilton. The reservation shows presidential suite, all amenities. Change their reservation to standard ocean view rooms. Cancel the private dining, the spa appointments, the exclusive beach access. Everything should be standard resort experience, not VIP treatment. There was a long pause. Ms. Hamilton, may I ask? These guests have the same surname as yours. Are they family members? The question hung in the digital space between us. No, I said finally. They're not real family. I understand. We'll make the adjustments immediately. Thank you, Kadek. And one more thing, I'll be arriving at the resort in 2 days. Please prepare the owner's villa. Of course, Miss Hamilton. Should I inform the arriving guests that you'll be joining them? I thought about the look on Mom's face when she'd said the anniversary trip was for real family only. About Caroline's dismissive laughter when I mentioned work. About Jonathan's casual suggestion that I think about hospital administration. Let it be a surprise, I said. After ending the call, I booked my own flight to Bali. First class, naturally, though my family had no idea I could afford such luxuries. I'd arrive at the HermÃ resort on day 3 of their vacation, just as they were settling into their standard guest experience. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of business calls and strategic planning. Paradise Holdings was in the middle of acquiring 2 new properties in Thailand, and the due diligence required constant attention. I worked from my childhood bedroom, managing billion-dollar transactions while my parents flew across the Pacific Ocean toward their anniversary surprise. My flight to Jakarta was everything first-class travel should be: private pods, gourmet meals, attentive service from a crew that recognized me as Paradise Holdings suit. The 12-hour flight gave me time to review the HermÃ resort's performance metrics and plan the integration strategy for our Thai acquisitions. I landed in Bali on a perfect tropical evening, the kind of sunset that graced every tourism brochure. The VIP transfer from the airport was seamless. Luxury sedan, ice-cold champagne, fresh orchids. The kind of service my parents had expected but weren't receiving. The HermÃ luxury resort appeared through the palm trees like something from a dream. Balinese architecture blended with modern luxury, creating a paradise that had been featured on the cover of Travel Plus Leisure magazine 6 times in the past 3 years. The property I'd purchased and transformed into one of the world's premier destinations. Kadek met me at the resort entrance, his smile warm and professional. Miss Hamilton, welcome home. Home. After 6 years of building Paradise Holdings, my resorts felt more like home than the family house I'd grown up in. Thank you, Kadek. How are our guests? His expression shifted slightly. The Hamilton party has been vocal about their accommodations. How so? They expected VIP treatment and were surprised to find they were processed as standard guests. There were some complaints about room assignments, dining reservations, spa availability. I could imagine. My parents, accustomed to luxury and expecting red carpet treatment, suddenly finding themselves treated like ordinary tourists. Are they enjoying the resort otherwise? The property is beautiful, of course, but they seem dissatisfied with the service level. Perfect. I'll be staying in the owner's villa for the remainder of their visit, I said. Please don't mention my presence unless they ask directly. Of course, Miss Hamilton. The owner's villa was a masterpiece of tropical luxury. Private beach, infinity pool, dedicated staff, panoramic views of the Indian Ocean. The kind of accommodation that didn't appear on any booking website because it wasn't available to regular guests. This was where heads of state stayed when they wanted absolute privacy, where celebrities honeymooned when they needed to disappear from public view. I spent my first morning reviewing resort operations and enjoying the sunrise from my private terrace. Paradise Holdings' financial reports showed strong performance across all properties, with the HermÃ resort leading in both revenue and guest satisfaction. The business I'd built while my family thought I was playing with computers was thriving. Around 11 a.m., I decided to take a walk through the resort grounds. Time to see how my parents were adjusting to their standard guest experience. I found them at the main pool, looking significantly less relaxed than they should have after 2 days in paradise. Mom sat rigidly in a standard lounge chair, her usual poise replaced by visible frustration. Dad paced beside the pool, his phone pressed to his ear in what appeared to be an animated conversation. "This is unacceptable," I heard him saying as I approached. "We were promised VIP treatment. Presidential suite, private dining, exclusive access. Instead, we're being treated like regular tourists." Mom spotted me first. Her expression cycled through confusion, surprise, and something approaching panic. "Diana." Her voice carried across the pool area. "What are you doing here?" Dad ended his phone call and turned toward me, his face showing the same confusion. "Diana? Why are you in Bali?" I walked over to their standard resort chairs, noting the way other guests glanced over curiously. In my designer resort wear and confident posture, I probably looked like exactly what I was someone who belonged in this luxury environment. Hello, Mom. Dad. How's the anniversary trip going? How did you get here? Mom demanded. This resort is exclusive, expensive. How did you afford? She trailed off, her eyes taking in my obviously expensive clothes and accessories. I booked a flight, I said simply. But the cost, Dad protested. First-class tickets to Bali, accommodations at a resort like this. Diana, where did you get that kind of money? The question hung in the tropical air between us. The same place I've been getting money for the past 6 years, I said. I work. Your computer consulting, Mom said dismissively. Diana, be serious. This trip must have cost $20,000. You can't afford that kind of expense on whatever you make from your little hobby. Little hobby. I looked around at the resort grounds, the manicured gardens I'd designed, the infinity pools I'd commissioned, the private beaches I'd restored. My little hobby had created one of the world's most successful hospitality companies. Actually, I said, settling into a nearby chair, I didn't pay for accommodations. What do you mean? Dad's voice carried suspicion. I mean, I didn't pay to stay here because I own the resort. The words fell into the conversation like stones dropped in still water. Mom's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again without producing sound. Dad stared at me like I'd announced I could fly. You, what? Mom managed finally. I own the HermÃ luxury resort, I said calmly. Along with 43 other luxury properties in 12 countries. Paradise Holdings is my company. Paradise Holdings? Dad repeated the name like it might make more sense if he said it slowly. The hospitality empire I've been building for 6 years while you thought I was playing with computers. Mom was shaking her head. That's impossible. Paradise Holdings it's a major international company. They own some of the most expensive resorts in the world. $2.8 billion in assets as of last quarter, I confirmed. 15,000 employees, properties on 6 continents. But Dad struggled to find words. You're Diana. You live in that little apartment and drive that old car and... I live modestly because I reinvest profits back into the business. Rapid international expansion requires significant capital investment. The explanation seemed to make everything more surreal rather than less. This resort, Mom said slowly, you're saying you own this entire resort? Purchased it 3 years ago for $847 million. We've invested another $200 million in improvements since then. $847 million? Dad's voice came out as a whisper. I nodded. But that means... Mom was doing calculations in her head. That means you're worth approximately $1.7 billion, yes. The number settled over them like a heavy blanket. Billion. Dad repeated. With a B. With a very large B. They sat in stunned silence for a full minute, trying to process this information while tropical birds sang in the palm trees overhead. But why didn't you tell us? Mom asked finally. Why let us think you were struggling? When was I supposed to tell you? When you said the anniversary trip was for real family only. When Caroline laughed about my computer work. When Jonathan suggested I consider hospital administration. The truth hit them like a physical force. Yesterday, before you left for the airport, you told me to stay home and think about my life choices, I continued. You said I needed to stop playing at being an entrepreneur and build something real. Mom's face flushed. We didn't know. You didn't ask. For 6 years, you assumed I was failing without ever asking what I was actually doing. But you never said anything about success, Dad protested. You never showed us evidence of achievement. What evidence were you looking for, Dad? Bank statements? Property deeds? Press coverage? Because Paradise Holdings has been featured in Forbes, Fortune, and Travel Plus Leisure dozens of times over the past 3 years. We never saw. Because you never looked. You were too busy being embarrassed by the daughter who couldn't find a real job. The words hung between us, heavy with 6 years of misunderstandings and missed opportunities. Diana, Mom said, her voice small, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. You had no idea because you decided I was a failure and never questioned that assumption. Dad was staring at the resort around us with new eyes. All of this, you built all of this. This and 43 other properties. Hotels in Paris, villas in Tuscany, beach resorts in the Caribbean, mountain lodges in Switzerland. We employ 15,000 people worldwide. 15,000 people, he repeated numbly. Real jobs, Dad. With real benefits, real security. The kind of jobs you thought I should be looking for instead of building. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. So when you changed our reservations, Mom began. When I what? I asked innocently. Our reservations. We were supposed to have the presidential suite, VIP treatment, private dining. Instead we got standard rooms and regular service. You changed our reservations, didn't you? I adjusted your reservation status to match your family status, I said. You said the anniversary trip was for real family only. I wasn't real family, so I thought you might prefer the real family experience. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Diana, we didn't mean. You did mean it. Yesterday morning, you specifically said I wasn't real family because I hadn't built a real career or made real contributions. But if we had known. Known what? That I was worth paying attention to? That maybe your youngest daughter had found a different path to success? That maybe your definition of achievement was too narrow? Dad ran his hands through his hair. Diana, how do we fix this? I looked around at the resort I'd built, at the paradise my parents were supposed to be enjoying for their anniversary. 25 years of marriage, and they'd chosen to celebrate without the daughter who could have given them the world. I don't know if you can fix it, Dad. You can't unspeak words. You can't undo assumptions. You can't pretend the past 6 years didn't happen. But we want to try, Mom said desperately. We want to make this right. Do you? Or do you want to make this comfortable for yourselves now that you know I'm successful? The question hung in the tropical air between us. Because for 6 years I've been building something extraordinary while you treated me like a charity case. 6 years of family dinners where you compared me unfavorably to Caroline and Jonathan. 6 years of suggestions that I find a real job, get serious about my future, stop playing with computers. I stood up, smoothing down my dress. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to finish your anniversary trip as standard resort guests, the way you wanted it. Real family only. I'm going to continue running my business from the owner's villa. And when we all get back home, maybe we can have a conversation about what real family actually means. I started to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Mom? I've thought about my life choices just like you suggested. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. As I walked back toward my private villa, I could hear them calling my name, but I didn't turn around. Behind me, my parents sat by the pool of the resort their daughter owned, finally beginning to understand the magnitude of their misunderstanding. My phone buzzed with a message from Kadek. Should I upgrade the Hamilton party's accommodations, Miss Hamilton? I typed back, no changes. They're getting exactly the family experience they asked for. The rest of their stay would give them plenty of time to think about their assumptions, their words, and their definition of success. And maybe, just maybe, they'd learn to see their daughter for who she actually was rather than who they thought she should be. But that was their choice to make. I had a billion-dollar company to run.